guys, and welcome. Hi, Carrie. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, Ine.
Absolutely. It is so good to have Carrie back online with Online Pet Health. It has been a while since we've collaborated. And we're really excited to hear what you have been up to in the last couple of years.
Been a little busy.
Been a lot of things. Awesome. Guys, so today we are chatting about changing direction, transitions in your career, when you need to pivot, when you need to make a new plan. For so many of us, this has been a reality in the last few years. COVID made sure of that. For others, you've managed to stay in clinical practice. For others, we've had children. That's me. Needed to find a new way to make this, this work and this life and this passion work for us. So we're going to be exploring some of those ways today that we can transition, because for all of us, it isn't in our minds to leave clinical practice. We love working with our patients. We love being hands-on. And so it can come as a shock to the system when we need to make a change and we're not prepared for it. We haven't thought about it. So even if you think this conversation is not for you, I do encourage you to have a listen, lend an ear, give it some thought, because it might help you in a year or 2 or 5 or 10. It doesn't matter, but it might give you a little bit of an idea of what could lie ahead of you and what your options could be if life doesn't go the way that we plan. Okay, so we are live today and we welcome any questions and any discussions, but this will also be available as a recording. So if you can't join us live or you can't stay for the entirety of our chat, you can come back in to Facebook later and you can watch this as a recording. All right, so Carrie, will you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and your interest in today's topic, which I hope will give us some insight into what you've been up to for the last few years.
You bet. Good morning, everybody. It's 7 a.m. here in Colorado. We're on summer hours, so I had to set my alarm this morning. This is one perk of having your own business. Just throwing that out there. So I'm Carrie, Adrian. I have been in clinical practice for 23 years. That was really all I knew, right? I mean, I think most of us start in this field. I'm a human physical therapist that have transferred my knowledge and skills 24 plus years ago now. And, much like Ine said, I wanted to bring this topic to online pet health because I think the transition is huge. Because this is all we know, it's very scary, right? So, I try to teach my kids, feel the fear and do it anyway. So that's exactly what I did last April. So my story goes back to, VCA animal hospitals. I was director of rehabilitation for all of VCA nationwide. And it was an amazing role. Just being able to stay in clinical practice 2 days a week and working for a corporation the other 3 days a week. It was perfect. It was a great mix for me. I did have kids. I wanted that flexibility, at least somewhat, to raise my babies and be home with my babies. Of course, I think COVID changed the field, at least here in the US, changed the field of vet med. And I don't know if it was just COVID, who knows? It was very, very difficult. And I think it still is for hospitals, for corporations to find veterinarians, to find technicians to staff their hospital. So rehab really, kind of went down on the rung of the ladder. And I did see it coming. I kind of knew that this was the direction it was heading. So when my position was eliminated, I was ready. I started a business in 2021 that's out there. This was a dream come true for me to develop an educational platform. We had been talking about it with some friends and colleagues. I know everybody knows Amy Hesbach, Lynn McGonigal, Cheryl Rieger-Krug. We had been talking about something like this for probably close to 10 years. So, yeah, so it wasn't kind of at least for me, it wasn't a smack in the face, right? Like, okay, I see this coming, and I kind of paved that way for myself, if you will. You know, I was ready to leave the clinic back in January of 2022. And I expressed that, you know, to the corporation. I'm looking for that transition. When you know, for sure, COVID, we were all getting killed in so many different ways, right? It was either killing your job, killing us on the number of patients that we were seeing every day. You know, I was 14 to 16 patients. It was only 2 days a week. And the other couple days on my corporate time, you know, you're scrambling to catch up with that caseload, right? So for me, you know, COVID was really difficult with burnout for me. I just needed a change. I was ready. I told them I need to transition out of the clinic. What can that look like? And I explored my options with them. And you know, it wasn't something that they, you know, for me to come on full time wasn't an option at that point. You know, with medical operations within the corporate practice, again, you know, they were focused on some other things. So when my job was eliminated last February, I had an idea of where I was going and what I wanted to do with that. So I did have a little bit of opportunity to plan and prepare, but that doesn't mean, you know, those wheels weren't already spinning, you know, beforehand. So, you know, whether it's boredom, you know, whether it was burnout, whether it's kids, you know, I'm in the same boat. Anae, you know, I've got a 10 and a 14-year-old, and I'm probably having a little bit of a reality check that my oldest is going to high school this fall, right? Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, right? Wait, what? So for me, it was a bit of a smack in the face that, you know, I want to cherish every second, you know, in every minute that they're home, and to have more of that flexibility. Um, you know, I think the other point I wanted to make is, you know, clinic work is physical, and especially if you're working with horses, right? So I don't know about you guys, but you know, I probably have a lot of arthritis in my thumbs just from a lot of the hands-on, the manual therapy, and and I remember, you know, in the clinic, every time I would get up off the floor to like be cognizant of pushing with my quads, keeping my quads strong, like total PT brain, right? And now I'm laughing at myself as I go to pick the laundry out of the dryer. You know, like, okay, Carrie, use your quads, do something to maintain, you know, that up and down off the floor all day long. So I find myself doing things to like mimic that at home, so I can at least try to maintain it, because we ain't getting any younger over here. So, you know, the excessive workload, you know, maybe you just need a change. Maybe you just need something that challenges you again. And I've seen some, you know, I've seen some human, they were doing some surveys and looking at reasons for why, you know, within 5 to 7 years, some of these human PTs were looking for a way out, you know, as early as 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
So that was a little bit eye-opening for me as well. You know, and you know, looking at lack of growth at documentation. So I don't know about the rest of the world, but we have an incredible amount of documentation for human PTs and you know, canine alike, and it becomes a huge burden. You know, or maybe your salary is not where you want it to be, and there's so many reasons, guys, so many personal reasons too, of why you want to leave the clinic.
I love that. So I think, thank you for sharing that, Carrie. That's really great. I would love to hear from you guys, from our audience. If you're joining us live or if you're watching this as a recording, let us know. So some of the things that you've just said now, Carrie, is like that readiness for a transition. And so in my mind, I feel like for some of us, it comes as a shock. I need to do something different. And maybe that's because we've been kind of in denial about, you've mentioned the physical and the financial aspect. Those can both be things that smack us in the face because we haven't been paying enough attention to them, and then all of a sudden we need to make a change. And then on the other side, this idea that you've kind of had this idea or this dream or this thing you wanted to pursue, and so you're ready for the change when the opportunity presents itself. So I'd love to hear from our audience. Can you relate to one of those? I'd love to have a sense of how you guys are feeling and what you're experiencing. Or if you're not there, you want to be in clinical practice, please, that's fine. We all actually want to be in clinical practice for as long as it's possible. So there's nothing wrong with feeling like that and wanting to be in that space. And even if that is where you are, I think there are ways to make it more sustainable so that the challenges like the physical or the financial or the paperwork workload are not as much of a burden, and that we can give ourselves a bit better longevity to stay in clinical practice. So I think those are all kinds of things we can explore and think about. So yeah, let us know where you guys are at and how that feels and works for you.
Yeah, would love to hear, some of the thoughts that are out there. I love clinical practice. Don't get me wrong. It's scary, guys. I'm not going to lie. To leave what you know your entire life is super scary. Not going to lie about that. It's one of those, is this something that I can do? That whole imposter syndrome creeps back in, and that whole, gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And what I can say to you, and trust me, I'm still doing it. And do prepare, do have something in mind. Now, that's not always the case. I get that, things change like that. So, at least start thinking about what that would look like for you when clinical practice comes to an end, as it almost always does. If you're lucky, you get to retire from clinical practice. Yeah. And I miss getting my hands furry. I do, but it was time. It was time for me personally. It's such a personal decision on that. So at least, I love that you're happy in clinical practice, but maybe start thinking about what would I do, or be honest with yourself. And, and that's what I had to do, well, years ago, am I being honest with myself and saying, I think I'm ready for a change, but, I kept pushing that down. Right? I kept, no. What else am I going to do, Carrie? You know what? Just go back to clinical practice, right? That's what we tend to do, is just push that little voice over here, and there's one over here, and it keeps coming up, and it keeps talking to you. And I'm not going to say that again, it was something that had been stewing, and I do encourage that. I understand it's not always possible, but I encourage you to at least start thinking about some other options, and we can talk about those. What does that look like for me? For me, I am incredibly humbled. I am incredibly grateful for the village that I have surrounding me to help me make this a reality. My brother is an athletic trainer down in Georgia, in Atlanta area, and he has a business called Athlete IQ. Sound familiar? So guess what? It became Canine IQ. He's like, Carrie, why don't you do Canine IQ? And I'm like, I love that. And there's the name, right? So just little things like that just keep falling into place. And, I don't know how to do tax stuff. I don't know, oh, you have to pay estimated quarterly taxes now. I'm like, what does that mean? My other brother is a CPA, so reach out to your connections, guys. You don't have to have this all on your shoulders. And not only that, I'm humbled by the connections that I have made throughout my career. Reach out to those people. The faculty list, I am incredibly grateful for. I've worked with Dr. Allison Heaney. She's a cardiologist. Hey, I would love to do a lecture for Canine IQ. Great. So the people that you meet along the way, talk to them. Talk to those people. Start the conversation is the first thing I would throw out there. Start to feel this out. It's not just here on your shoulders. Work that
I
arena.
love that. I love that. That's making me feel like be brave and just have the conversations. And I have to tell myself to be brave because actually having conversations is very hard for me. You wouldn't say, right? Okay. So Anna and Beth, thank you so much. Anna says, I am in that place, but I'm having a hard time making a decision. I'm in transition towards PT, but don't know if I should leave general practice. Yeah.
Anna, are you a veterinarian? So you want to lean more towards rehab as a GP veterinarian? Is that what I'm saying? And so if I'm understanding that correctly, I would absolutely start talking to your neighborhood, if you will, and reach out to those who are doing it. Reach out to you're an RVT. Okay, perfect. So I would reach out to your people and start talking to those who have made that transition, who have made that switch. Begin the conversation. Key number one. And feel it out. I don't know, what your demographics look like, what your area looks like. Are there people that are doing it around you? Is there some way that maybe you can go in and shadow and start to feel that out a little bit without jumping right in to making that switch? Make sure you like it. Make sure it's something that you want to do. Would they support you getting certified? Would they support you going through and getting the education and training that you need to make that switch? Start the conversation.
So I really like that. Kind of what you're saying there is that it can also be gradual. You don't have to make this like giant change overnight. Sometimes you can start to bring in change over time. You can start to incorporate days in a different situation, days in a different workspace, and then build on that as it grows and as it develops, which can sometimes be the right thing. So there isn't one right way to transition from one space to the next space. It can look so many different ways. Yeah,
for sure. And perhaps too, Anna, that you end up doing half and half. Maybe you do half GP, maybe you do half rehab stuff. So there are options, but the first thing you need to do is start that conversation and feel it out a little bit. That's what I would recommend.
Awesome. And then Beth is saying, it is scary, but for me, it's time. Closing a successful canine practice after 25 years and 40 years as a PT to do something else.
Ooh. Scary, isn't it? Yeah, it was for me as well. I get it. This is all This is all. This is your world. You live and breathe these furry patients, and what I can say to you, Beth, is congratulations. Truly, taking that step is huge. And I'm curious to hear, why is it time? Are you just ready for a change? Why is it time for you, Beth? And you're successful. Is it all of the above that we've already mentioned? Is that something that you're just ready? Maybe you're the lucky one who gets to retire straight from clinical practice. And I think it's fabulous. Yeah, I think there's a lot of personal reasons. Some people have that personality that they can jump right in and do something different. I'm not like that. I needed to have a plan. It was too scary for me to jump into something different. And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of other opportunities. It's not just education. For me, with Canine IQ, I didn't have that. When I first started in this field, I just jumped right into a veterinary hospital, sink or swim, right? Like I didn't have the mentors. I didn't have the other colleagues around me to really help and pull that together for me, and to go and talk. Now I had, my village around me at the vet hospital, which was amazing and very welcoming, but I didn't have another physical therapist to talk to. So for me, putting this together and training the next generation of canine physical therapists was my dream, and being able to impart that knowledge and being able to impart, what I never knew, and they can start, leaps and bounds ahead of me jumping into this field. So there's other avenues, there's other directions to go in, and I kind of jotted down some notes on this as well. And administration, I think, is pretty high up there. And I think a lot of veterinarians, a lot of technicians are already doing that. And I would encourage, perhaps physical therapists to look at that role as well. It may not be, a hospital manager to that level, but, could certainly be providing some insight on developing clinical practice and developing certain departments. That clinical background that you have is invaluable, and being able to help create those and drive those numbers is a great start.
I love that, honestly, because I think we don't realize the skills that we pick up along the way that are not specific to our skill set that we're intentionally developing, right? Like having administration and scheduling skills, working with different kinds of software, managing teams, managing different personalities. I think it is so important that as we go through these things as professionals, we intentionally develop the skill. We intentionally give it time, give it attention, make sure that we're making the most out of every frustrating challenge that we have to face to get through get through clinical practice, make it better, improve the way that we work. Because you never do know what those skills can mean for you in the future, because it could mean an opportunity to transition or to develop further different skill sets. Could highlight to you a talent, a strength that you didn't know that you had, that you can develop even further. So I really love that. So I think we should go into some of the more common alternatives that are available to us as rehabilitation professionals. Before we dive into that, I'd love to share that my transition out of clinical practice was sudden, and I can only describe that time in my life as traumatic.
I believe that.
I became pregnant, and then at that time I was seeing horses. I was traveling 10,000 plus kilometers every month and spending days away from home at a time. There was no way I could do that with a small human. And so I had to stop without a plan, literally just, it's in God's hands. I don't know what I'm going to do. And the next thing, Meg offered me a position at Online Pet Health. I had no idea I would be spending my life in front of a computer, but here I am. And
I hear that.
Even though I truly couldn't be more grateful for this work and for this time, that transition and that time was traumatic for me. It was very difficult. There were so many things going on. And so it would be great. It's always good for us to be ready, to have something in the back of our minds that say, if I have to, I can, and I think that's good. So let's chat about some of the kind of common pivots that people can make out of rehabilitation.
Yeah. In addition to, administration or management, I think one of the common shifts that I've seen is equipment sales. We have worked intimately with this equipment or even pharmaceuticals, right? So it's sort of similar paths as far as working with a lot of these supplements or equipment, and you have that experience. You can take real world knowledge and apply that, to the benefit of this whatever company that you choose to work for. Now, again, looking at opportunities, like you said, a lot of the sales positions are travel positions, but that's something to consider, something to talk about, something to feel out a little bit, whether that works in your lifestyle or not. But I've seen a lot of rehabilitators who go down that path. So maybe they work for some sort of supplement or chondroprotectant company, or they go into laser sales or underwater treadmill sales, something of that nature. So that's an avenue that I've seen, that has worked pretty well for a lot of people that want to transition out.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and we know this equipment. Why not? The education, of course, is one. The telehealth, I put this on the list too. So telehealth, digital health. I think you've got to be the right person for that. I was not. I didn't much care for telehealth. I considered it. I looked into it. There's a lot of legal aspects, at least, here in the US, of what that looks like to be able to offer telehealth. And a lot of it was paper pushing. For me, I hated that aspect. I wanted to keep these furry. So, but I think that's an opportunity that needs to be investigated in much greater detail, because I think that's pretty different across the world. And whether you can, utilize that for actual patient care, that's a hard one, or just consulting, or maybe you do that in a consulting role instead of actual direct, patient care. So that's something else that could be considered, obviously, with a lot more investment and understanding of doing it the right way, and if that works within your practice acts, and what that all entails.
So you kind of just skipped over education, actually, and I'd love for you to explore that a little bit deeper, because you've created your own certification course, which I'd love for you to tell us more about. But you don't have to create your own thing to go into education, right? You can start working at a university or lecturing. There are a few other ways to go into education a little bit deeper.
For sure.
Do you have ideas, some additional ideas?
The beauty of this is you're in South Africa, I'm in Colorado, and here we are, talking to one another. And that's one beauty of COVID, right? So I think, if you have knowledge and being able to share it. Now, the social media, I don't know about for you guys, but the social media makes me want to, kills me. But I'm old school, right? So, being able to create something is step one, but then getting it out to the world, I think, is even harder. We have so much knowledge up here. That's the easy part, right? And just putting it down on paper, that's the fun stuff. That's what we know. That's what we want to share. But how do I, here I am on online pet health, but how do I share that, with the world, that, hey, my stuff is great. You should take that, so that's something that, maybe online pet health is something on the social media aspect and just marketing. So that's a whole other world, right? I talked a little bit about, just all the business administration that goes along with creating your own business, and the taxes. But this IT stuff is a whole different world. Marketing, whole different world. So these are little chunks that you have to think about putting it all together to create that educational piece. And, how do I share that? For sure, sharing with universities, I think, is an excellent idea. There's so many platforms that we can utilize, and being able to get, gosh, sky's the limit. I think sky's the limit with education and the platforms that we have right now, and being able to share our knowledge. And that's really the goal, is, and the beauty of all of this is to be able to take our experiences, because we may not have the research behind what we're doing, but we've seen it in clinical practice enough to say, hey, look at this, or hey, think about this. So I think there's more and more opportunity for that to be cohesive. And, I've always wanted to put together some sort of a database, a research database, if you will. and that goes along with the educational piece, is the research aspect. And what Anae is doing to what Carrie's doing, what do those outcomes look like? Should we be tweaking that? And not everybody has time and effort to write a research publication. So I've harped on this a long time of how do we share that knowledge. So there might be some room there to help create that niche of being able to easily share our knowledge without going through the pain and suffering of publishing in a journal. Not that that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I promise. But
listen, I love that. Do you know with the like Equicantus, the softwares that are coming out that allow us to document and invoice and okay, do they not also offer us the opportunity to compare clinical notes around the world? Because it's the same note-taking system, the same outcome measures that are being repeated, hopefully in the same way, but it gives us the opportunity to use data that is the same, that is comparable, is what I mean, and to take that into a different space. So I think that those doors of kind of like the research opportunities are going to be opening up more and more now in the years to come, especially with the increase of softwares like Equicantus, Equigate, Shark, etc., because they give us a platform where we can take those, like we're already putting our clinical notes there, and all the practitioners are using the same. So I think there's something there.
The hard part with that is going to be.
Can you see?
Oh, it's super exciting. It's there. It's there. The hard part with that is how do you monetize that, right? So how, who's paying for that? Who's paying for you to sit down and go through all that data to search for trends or, to publish some of this stuff? And maybe it comes from the company. Maybe there's a conversation there that, hey, more people would use your software if we can get this information out of it. So I love this, Anae. So there, somebody let us know. Get out there and get out there. It's super exciting, right? So here, Beth had another great idea, teaching pet owners through classes, workshops at my dog trainer's friend's business, senior care, core conditioning, brilliant, warm up, cool down. I think we all think of this stuff, we do it on a daily basis in clinical practice, and I know a lot of people are already, doing this information. Find your niche, find what you love, get out into your community and start educating. Offer these classes. I love it, Beth. Thank you. It's the stuff that we teach on a daily basis in clinical practice.
And the other thing that reminds me of, Beth, I was going to mention that as well, as an addition to, because Carrie's talking about, educating other professionals, but owners, and they're like, that's essentially a limitless market, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of owners out there that we can reach through online pet health online platforms.
Right. It's used to saying that. Yeah. And online pet health platforms. Yes.
Yeah. But that's fantastic. And I'm going to go on a quick tangent. I'm sorry, but it's relevant right now. But as you're doing this, and as you're kind of creating workshops, online classes, online resources, this is a great way to step into slightly less clinical practice, plus an alternative source of income. Fantastic. Okay. And at the same time, you're finding that thing that really matters to you. And with this year's Vetrehab Summit, we're talking about the ethical challenges that we face as Vetrehabbers. This is actually what I'm talking about. What is the thing that gets you on your soapbox, that you wish people understood better, that makes the difference to your patients? For me, therapeutic exercise is a huge thing. If we could just get this right, it isn't in the equine industry. It just get off your horse and work on the ground, okay?
There's your passion. I love it. Find your passion. Love it. Love it.
Right? This is my ethical challenge as a Vetrehabber. That's mine. what is yours and what are you going to do about it? How are you going to bring change and long-term well-being, welfare change? Like, how are you going to change the industry? Because you can. It's in your hands. You can do it.
So part of my mind, and that brings up, what I use as my mantra is for Canine IQ is turn your passion into a profession. And that's what I'm seeing in you right now. That's what we have in all of us. This is why we do this, right? This is why we feel the fear and make the switch. And it boils and boils and maybe it's down here bubbling for a while. Finally, it comes out, and you know what? I'm going to do it. It's time. And that's all part of it. I love it. You see the passion. It's there. I know it.
And it's there. It is there for all of us. So, and maybe it is treating your patients every day, day in, day out, hands on.
Yeah.
This is why we chose the profession. We love being hands on with our patients. We love having furry hands. The time that we spend with our clients. Yes, for sure. It doesn't always have to be one or the other. And so I like that sometimes that transition can be slow. Okay, so you asked Beth earlier, why is it time for her to change? And she says that her facility lease is up and I don't feel the energy to commit to another 2 to 3 years of clinical work or business ownership. She'll be working part-time with an equine-assisted program that provides psychosocial rehab. Wow. So as a qualified mental health associate, using my people and horse skills in a different way. I love that.
Love it. Yeah, that's amazing. But here again, she has that background to step into that. So that's something that you need to understand. What are those skills? What is that knowledge that I need to step into that role that I'm so passionate about? So it's something to think about. Beth has these extra skills that she can step into something new like this. So doing your homework, essentially researching what it is that you're interested in, and then what do I need to do about that is a whole nother step. What training, what knowledge, what education do I need to take that leap? So
I love that. So taking the time to intentionally prepare for that transition, and that's something you can do across years. It doesn't have to be when the change is imminent. It can just be investing in your passion or in your special interest, making sure that you're going on courses, that you're getting additional, qualifications or certification or continuing education, whatever that thing might be. Doing online courses through Udemy or wherever it's available for you to do. It doesn't have to be big things, but are you just continually investing in your interest, your area of interest, your area of passion, and finding ways to further develop or share that information? I think that's really awesome.
Love it. I wanted to go back to the other avenues. Insurance is on my list. So here, in the U.S., a lot of veterinary medicine is being, or I should say, veterinary rehabilitation and physical therapy is covered by insurance. So here is your knowledge base utilized in a different avenue. So you have intimate knowledge of what these treatments look like. Insurance companies can have you go in, evaluate, review, should we reimburse, sort of thing. So that's another avenue. I don't know that that's global, but certainly something to consider. In public health, I had community health programs, very similar to what Beth already talked about. Being able to impart your knowledge in a community, in teaching the community, teaching these dog owners, these handlers, whoever it may be, what you're aware of, what your knowledge is, and learning new things from them as well. And whether that's sporting dogs, whether that's, neuro cases, whether that's orthopedic, who knows? Find your passion and do it. And then of course,
I love that. Research. Okay, yes, go into research.
Yeah. So again,
make money out of doing research.
And I figured it out. I figured it out. This being a independent research consultant is another dream of mine, right? So I have all these questions that I have created from being in clinical practice, and hey, is this real? Am I seeing this the right way? And being able to take that, to a company. I consult with Nutramax Laboratories. It's not a secret. But being able to do some studies and working with them on various levels, to understand, what we're seeing better. Different, skill set as well. So that's something to consider. But you can transfer into various roles within the research avenue. So there's opportunities there as well, and universities, because they're constantly doing research as well. So
yeah, no, okay, no, I mean, I love that. I'd love to get more involved in research. That's not a secret.
Yeah.
So I think it would be nice to be able to make money while doing so, because that's definitely a lot of work. Doing research is not for the faint of heart.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot, and it's so the other thing, on just on those grounds, everything we've talked about. The other thing that I have found is the self-motivation is different. I get up every single day and I say, what am I going to accomplish today? It's totally different. When you're in clinical practice, you have your schedule. You know exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, boom, 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 you're going down, the day's over. You go home, right? And then you write your notes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Or in from a corporate world, I knew what projects we were working on. I knew what I needed to accomplish that day. When it's my own business, it's like, okay, I'm going to go today. I have no idea what that insurance looks like. I need to go investigate insurance today. So you're on the phone and you're learning, so it's good for me, for us old folks, stimulate those neurons. And just using your brain in a different way to learn something new. And every day is a learning opportunity, I promise you. So being able to have that self-motivation is something else I think that needs to be considered, right? So, if you're at a point in your life where you don't want to take that on, be aware of that, right? Consider things like that. Because it's a whole different can of worms.
No, it is. I love that you've mentioned that, because it is, for me, it's also, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it has definitely been a skill for me to develop, but one I have loved so much, being able to kind of control my own time and finding ways to manage myself, motivate myself, create a productive workspace, blah, blah, blah. All of that works for me so well. That is it's me in a nutshell. I love it.
Yes.
And it definitely doesn't come naturally to everyone. When my husband came into a similar kind of work situation, it didn't mesh well with him. It didn't work super well. He struggled to organize his time in a way that made sense. It's much easier when someone tells you, be here from this time until this time, and you do what I tell you to do. Much easier.
Yeah. And personalities, right? It's a difference in personalities, for sure. Yeah.
So I like that, but I do think it is, like you said, are you in a space where you can do that? Like, are you mentally prepared to be able to manage yourself and your time? Because you have to be mentally prepared to do that, and then know that it's a skill that you can develop. You can get better at it. There are resources out there to help you, understand it, and it can be very overwhelming. Have you felt like a massive overwhelm? Because there isn't.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Last year was hard. When you feel like, you have to do everything. Oh, I need a website. Oh, well, I don't know how to do that. So I have to go find somebody that can help me build a website. Oh, what do you want to say on the website? I mean, you have to open a checking account. You have to open a savings account in business, and all of the paperwork, blah blah blah, that has to goes along with that. So there's like I made myself a little checklist, and it's okay. I had to refocus because there were times that I would just sit here at my desk and I'm like, again, overwhelmed, and I would just look at my husband and I'm like, where do I start? Right? Like, so you have to take little bites, little pieces, and the more you do it, the more confident you get, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, I can do this, and here we are. It's it's a process, gang. It's a process.
Yes, it's a process.
Yes,
the overwhelm is real, but it is a skill that you can develop and that you can work on. So if you're ready to take that on, just give yourself the grace to learn. That's all you need. You just need some grace to learn and to figure it out and to go through day by day. See the overwhelm early.
Yes.
Break things up for yourself into tasks. But okay, that's not the purpose of today's conversation. So Carrie, you've given us a bunch of ideas. Do you have anything else on your list?
I think as far as the transition, ideas for transitioning, does anybody else out there have ideas? This is certainly by no means a complete list. I think the other thing that I want to encourage is make it up. If you have a passion, go find it. Go figure out how to do it. And that's all part of working with your village, working with your group, exploring, talk to people, build relationships. That it's not always what you know, it's who you know sometimes as well. Like it or not, that's the way the world is. So explore those options more. Get out there and start the conversation. So does anybody else have ideas on opportunities to transition?
Yeah, I'd love to share some because you've just kind of focused on like the traditional things, but the social media and the online world have opened up so many. Your creativity is your limit in what you could be doing. But if you like social media, managing people's social accounts, practices, other rehab practices, social media is always an issue because someone has to do it. Someone has to spend the time. And as a professional, you want to have the knowledge to be able to share the right stuff to social media. So managing social accounts is definitely something that you can get.
Anyone? No, I'm just kidding.
And you could manage many accounts. You don't have to limit yourself to one or two practices. Again, it can be something you do around the world. It doesn't have to be limited to where you are geographically. So that's an opportunity. Managing, practices, note-taking. I know a clinician who does not do her own notes. She sends someone a voice note and they do the notes for her. And that's how she does her admin because she doesn't want to sit in front of her computer. Things like that. There are ways that you can kind of expand your current skill set or interests in the social world, on social media. Content creation, writing articles for websites. Again, within our industry, this is quite a niche space, but having good blog articles increases SEO. And if you have that on your website, you benefit, your practice's traffic. But writing them is hard work.
Great. So great. And thanks for that. I got to put that on the list, right?
That can be outsourced. So, and that's definitely not everyone's strength. Like, I love writing articles for online pet health. I think we have close to 300 blogs at the moment. How wild is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic. You have to like writing, right? I mean, you have to like writing.
So those are all kind of avenues that you can explore. Managing websites, writing content, managing social profiles. These are all things that I'm familiar with because they're part of what I do. And so hopefully that gives you guys some ideas as well. But it can be traditional, it can be non-traditional. Think about what you want. Do you want to be home? Do you want to be on the road? Do you want, like, what are the opportunities that you want in your life, in your lifestyle? And find ways, think laterally how you could achieve that, because you can.
Love it. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, what else did we need to go into? Like, we've touched a bit on preparing for that transition. Is there any, like, what are some other ways we could prepare ourselves for a transition?
Yeah, again, I think that's pretty dependent on what you're wanting to do, but certainly encouraging you to look at what it is you need to make that next step. In what knowledge and foundation, and how do you find a way to complete that? Will they be open to supporting you? And maybe it's something as like buying a few books or taking a few online courses that don't cost a lot of money, that you can show. I know with research, there's some online credentialing that you need in order to show that you understand the steps involved in research, and that's relatively easy to do. I took one at CSU, so it was pretty inexpensive, and you can find those courses. You can find pretty much anything online, right? So dependent upon what avenue you want, understand what requirements are needed to make that happen.
Love that. Guys, if you're watching this as a recording, please feel free to share your journey with us. Share where you are in your journey, and ideas that you're having or thoughts. And is there a place that can guide you? Anna, can you expand on that? What do you mean? Because that's it depends on what you're wanting to do, right? So yes, there are mentorship programs that can help you transition into rehab. And we have a lot. Online Paid Health has a mentorship program in place that can help you with that. And a lot of the certification programs also have mentorship programs in place that help you transition into clinical practice. If you're transitioning out, it completely depends on what you're doing. So if you want to send us a direct message with kind of specifics of what you need, then we could also try and match you to the right person who can advise you. So lean into Online Paid Health from that perspective. We'd love to connect you to the people that you need to guide you on your journey. We're very happy to do that. So if you don't want to share more details in the feed, just send us a direct message and we're going to help you figure out those next steps. We'd love to do that for you. Okay. I would love to encourage everyone to join us at the Vetrehab Summit on the 31st of August. We are talking about the ethical challenges that we face as professionals. And I know that feels very broad, but it is very relevant. And I hope that you're going to be inspired when you leave, right? When you've come for the day, been with us, I do hope that you're going to feel inspired to take the next steps for yourself, to improve your working situation, and to improve the welfare and the lives of your patients, because that's what we're here for. That's what our goal is. There is still so much in our industry, in the care of dogs and horses, competition world, that can improve, that need to change, that needs attention, that needs a spotlight. So let's be part of that solution and find a way to work forward. Okay. Bridget, thank you for joining us. So work on promoting the choice of careers in the vet physio in local schools and career centers. Excellent. Yeah, I love that.
For sure. There's a lot of physios, PTs that still don't know, this exists. And that's, part of my mantra is to get into the PT programs and share that this is a viable career path. So excellent. Yeah. Excellent idea for sure.
Thank you. Carrie, do you want to share a little bit more about Canine IQ and how people can learn from you?
Sure. Yeah. I created this credential just out of a need to fill a niche for physical therapists who want to transfer their knowledge and skills. What I was seeing, and a lot of the other programs, and I kind of did an informal survey, if you will, and cost was certainly one of them. Very heavily veterinary focused was another. Some more of the feedback that I was receiving. Lack of job placement. Once I get certified, where do I go from here? So those were some of the probably the three biggest feedback comments that I received. So filling that niche, like I mentioned earlier, we have the foundation of physical therapy. We just need to make that lateral move of filling in the gaps of knowledge where it comes to veterinary medicine and working with small animals. It's small animal only. Horses are a whole nother world. I just don't have, there's just no time in the day, right? Treat my own horses, and that's as far as I get. So, the idea of canine IQ is to fill that need and to fill those gaps. So there's certainly the foundational materials that we need. There's a whole module on fundamentals of the veterinary patient. So understand, of course, ortho, neuro. Right? That's a lot of what we get. But what about internal medicine? We have lectures on nutrition. We have lectures on behavior. I don't know about you, but that's not anything I got from human physical therapy, right? So pediatrics, maybe we need something in pediatrics. They pee and they bite, right? So behavior was a huge, component that I feel like is missing. I have, Dr. Mike Lappin, who's world-renowned veterinarian from CSU, and he's doing like a zoonotic, disease lecture for us. And understanding cardiology, understanding internal medicine, so there's a lot of aspects that we as physios don't have walking into a vet hospital. So there's a big component, its own module on fundamentals of the veterinary patient. And then again, taking the specialists. I'm pretty humbled by this faculty. I'm just very grateful that, there's a lot of physical therapists who have been doing this as long as I have. And, everybody's got their love, right? Everybody's got their specialty, whether it's their ex, whether it's, looking at sports medicine, neuro rehabilitation, and taking in business. There's even a component on business and developing your own business and looking at those various models. So, I'm humbled by this group coming together to impart that knowledge on our next generation and taking those physios that have been doing it, focused on that specific component, of their career, and being able to share that with the next generation. So very, very grateful for Canine IQ. It's all still a learning curve, guys, I promise. So yeah, especially the social media aspect of it all, I try. I don't even know how to do a reel yet, but I'll learn. I'm going to call you a day.
Oh, I wish I did not know how to do reels.
Oh, yes. It's all very, very painful. So, but it's still a love. It's still a passion, guys. Start the conversation is what I can encourage you to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Carrie. Thank you to those that have joined us live. It is so good to have you. If you're watching this as a recording, so good to have you. It's no different. Please share, comment, discuss. We're here to have a conversation with you guys. So
yeah, and any questions, send me an email. It's carrie@canineIQ.net. So CarrieCanine, capital I, capital Q.net. Please feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions, or like Anae said, try to connect you in the right direction and at least start that conversation. Anae, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.